Today's day 2 for the Come Follow Me study for this week, August 18th through the 24th. A Principle with Promise, Doctrine and Covenants 89 through 92. Tuesday, August 19th, 2025, Doctrine and Covenants 89, 4 through 9. The use of wine, strong drinks, tobacco, and hot drinks is proscribed. Doctrine and Covenants 89, 4. Behold, verily, thus saith the Lord unto you, in consequence of evils and designs which do and will exist in the hearts of conspiring men in the last days, I have warned you and forewarn you by giving unto you this word of wisdom by revelation. The Lord warned the saints that evils and designs exist in the hearts of conspiring men. Lawsuits against American tobacco companies in the last part of the 20th century made it clear that owners and employees of these companies conspired to hide the dangers of their products. Elder Marlon K. Jensen said, in 1997, Elder W. Eugene Hansen and I were asked to host the Honorable Michael Moore, Attorney General of Mississippi, during a brief visit he made to Utah and church headquarters. In a wide-ranging conversation with Mr. Moore, Elder Hansen and I raised questions about the lawsuit he had filed against the large American tobacco companies on behalf of the state of Mississippi. We knew Mississippi had recovered a sizable judgment and that other states, including Utah, were then undertaking similar action. We asked him specifically upon what legal theory the state of Mississippi's claim had been based. Much to our surprise, Mr. Moore informed us that the state's cause of action had been based on a theory of conspiracy, which the evidence eventually conclusively showed existed among the tobacco companies and even among their lawyers. As Mr. Moore talked of his conspiracy theory and the efforts made by the tobacco companies to hide from the public the addictive and harmful effects of tobacco, my mind almost instinctively turned to Section 89 of the Doctrine and Covenants. A copy of that book of Scripture was quickly located, and after briefly explaining the background and import of Section 89, I asked Mr. Moore to read verse 4. We listened attentively as he slowly and deliberately read that verse out loud in his appealing Southern accent. Behold, verily, thus saith the Lord unto you, in consequence of evils and designs, which do and will exist in the hearts of conspiring men in the last days, I have warned you and forewarn you by giving unto you this word of wisdom by revelation. The scriptural reference to conspiring men was not lost on Mr. Moore. As he finished reading verse 4, a broad smile came across his face, and with a twinkle in his eyes, he said, I never dreamed in visiting Utah I might find 10 million people who would agree with my conspiracy theories. My heart burned within me that day, and has many times since, as I have thought about Joseph Smith's gifts as a prophet and seer. President Heber J. Grant said, evil and designs, men hired to certify that cigarettes do not injure them, and never have done. And I have been told that when you challenge some of them regarding these things, they say, of course they never hurt me, because I have never used any of them. In consequence of evils and designs which do and will exist in the hearts of conspiring men in the last days. Don't you think it is evil and conspiring to publish pictures of beautiful women using cigarettes, knowing as they do that it destroys the very purpose of life? We have been warned against these things. 1 billion is beyond my comprehension, and yet, if I am not mistaken, on an average of 117 billion cigarettes per year were used over a period of many years in the United States. President David O. McKay observed the gradual growth of these evils in his lifetime. The purport of that revelation impressed me in the 20s and the 30s of this century. I just asked you to recall the methods employed by certain tobacco interests to induce women to smoke cigarettes. You remember how insidiously they launched their plan. First by saying that it would reduce weight. They had a slogan, take a cigarette instead of a sweet. Later, some of us who like the theater noticed that they would have a young lady light the gentleman's cigarette. Following this, a woman's hand would be shown on billboards lighting or taking a cigarette. A year or two passed, and soon they were brazen enough to show the lady on the screen or on the billboard smoking the cigarette. Parents meekly submit to this and later deplore the fact when their children are hopeless cigarette addicts. Many through the years have likewise conspired or contributed to making the use of alcohol, coffee, tea, other forms of tobacco and drugs more socially acceptable. President Joseph F. Smith said, "Many parents, in so simple a thing as keeping the word of wisdom, excuse themselves sometimes on the basis of social exigency, sometimes on the basis of business exigency. There is only one basis for it, and that is either a lack of belief or moral cowardice. No parent would deliberately subject his child to physical suffering. Any parent who would do that, we would say, is cruel. And yet it is just as much an act of cruelty and ultimately more damaging to impale the child on the horns of a dilemma of conflicting loyalties. He cannot be fully loyal to a church which teaches one doctrine and fully loyal to parents who decline to observe that doctrine. That conflict will be resolved either by the destruction of one or other or both of those loyalties." President Ezra Taft Benson explained, "There is another part of this revelation that constitutes a pertinent warning in this modern generation. In consequence of evils and designs which do and will exist in the hearts of conspiring men in the last days, I have warned you, and forewarn you by giving unto you this word of wisdom by revelation. The Lord foresaw the situation of today, when motives for money would cause men to conspire to entice others to take noxious substances into their bodies. Advertisements which promote beer, wine, liquors, coffee, tobacco, and other harmful substances are examples of what the Lord foresaw. But the most pernicious example of an evil conspiracy in our time is those who induce young people into the use of drugs. My young brothers and sisters, in all love, we give you warning that Satan and his emissaries will strive to entice you to use harmful substances, because they well know if you partake, your spiritual powers will be inhibited, and you will be in their evil power. Stay away from those places or people who would influence you to break the commandments of God. Keep the commandments of God, and you will have the wisdom to know and discern that which is evil." Elder Gary E. Stevenson counseled young people to plan in advance what they will do when tempted with alcohol or drugs. He taught, "You will find that temptation has less control over you. You will have already made the decision of how you will react and what you will do. You won't need to decide every time." After reading together Doctrine and Covenants 89:4 and Elder Stevenson's statement, counsel with your children about how they can decide now for the rest of their lives to live the word of wisdom. You could even role play how they might respond if someone, even a friend, offers them something that is against the word of wisdom. Read Doctrine and Covenants 89:5-17, looking for the specific counsel given regarding what we should avoid taking into our bodies and what the Lord identifies as useful to our bodies. Elder J. Reuben Clark Jr. said, "Over the earth, the demon drink is in control. Drunken with strong drink, men have lost their reason. Their counsel has been destroyed. Their judgment and vision are fled. They reel forward to destruction. Drink brings cruelty into the home. It walks arm in arm with poverty. Its companions are disease and plague. It puts chastity to flight, and it knows neither honesty nor fair dealing. It is a total stranger to truth. It drowns conscience. It is the bodyguard of evil. It curses all who touch it. Drink has brought more woe and misery, broken more hearts, wrecked more homes, committed more crimes, filled more coffins than all the wars the world has suffered." Doctrine and Covenants 89:5-6, "That inasmuch as any man drinketh wine or strong drink among you, behold, it is not good, neither meet in the sight of your Father, only in assembling yourselves together to offer up your sacraments before him. And behold, this should be wine, yea, pure wine of the grape of the vine, of your own make." While the consumption of alcoholic beverages was a common practice in the early 1800s in America, some religious groups and community organizations argued against its use. Soon after the church was organized, the Lord instructed the prophet Joseph Smith to use only homemade wine and warned him against purchasing it from his enemies. The 1833 revelation on the word of wisdom indicated that the use of wine or strong drink was not good. However, homemade wine continued to be acceptable for use as part of the sacrament. The Lord's instruction in verse 6, that for the sacrament the saints use pure wine of the grape of the vine, of your own make, reinforces his earlier instruction that you shall not purchase for the sacrament wine, neither strong drink of your enemies. Wherefore you shall partake of none except it be made new among you. The pure wine in Doctrine and Covenants 89:6 is understood to mean new or unfermented grape juice, since the Word of Wisdom declares unequivocally against the internal use of alcohol in any form. This interpretation is reinforced by the fact that water was early in the history of the church substituted for wine, for sacramental purposes. The Revelation reads, "For behold, I say unto you, that it mattereth not what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink, when ye partake of the sacrament. If it so be that ye do it with an eye single to my glory, remembering unto the Father my body, which was laid down for you, and my blood, which was shed for the remission of your sins." When the word of wisdom was first made known to the saints, some church members immediately stopped drinking alcohol, while others saw occasion or moderate use to be acceptable. Others viewed it as appropriate to drink alcohol for medical reasons. At the time this revelation was given, medicines were rare and alcohol was a valuable cleansing agent and disinfectant for wounds. Over time, the word of wisdom was understood by church leaders and members to prohibit the drinking of any alcohol. Doctrine and Covenants 89:7. And again, strong drinks are not for the belly, but for the washing of your bodies. Alcohol is a valuable cleansing agent for wounds and abrasions. When used to bathe an injured part of the body, alcohol performs a service for which it was intended. Doctrine and Covenants 89:8. And again, tobacco is not for the body, neither for the belly, and it is not good for man. One Latter-day Saint physician noted the effects of tobacco on the body. Time and time again, the medical and psychological sciences have brought forth evidence that points toward the destructive nature of the cigarette. In addition to the evidences recently found which link cigarette smoking to lung cancer, there are a number of interesting and arresting discoveries respecting the cigarette. E.A. Murphy and J.F. Mustard discovered that chronic smokers were less able to withstand the effects of radiation than were non-smokers, and that smoking interfered with action of the bone marrow, the part of the body that manufactures blood. A.J. Schaefer points out that there is a higher premature birth rate among children whose mothers smoke than among non-smokers, and that the mortality rate of these premature births was higher among offspring of smokers than of non-smokers. There is a good deal of evidence, according to A.R. Linsmith and A.I. Strauss, that in general, non-smokers are more prone to be steady and dependable, hard workers with stable marriages, and that they have statistically less difficulty with marriage than do smokers. And so the evidence piles up, bit by bit, piece by piece. A great mass of evidence is accumulating to substantiate from a purely scientific viewpoint the words of the Lord that tobacco is not for the body. Nicotine in large quantities can take over the nervous system, causing severe convulsions. Smoking causes a man to perform at an altitude as much as 5,000 feet higher than he really is, because of the oxygen space it preempts in his blood. As serious as the physical dangers are for using tobacco, the spiritual dangers, especially for members of the church who know the law, are even more serious. In my judgment, said Elder George Albert Smith, the use of tobacco, a little thing, as it seems to some men, has been the means of destroying their spiritual life, has been the means of driving from them the companionship of the Spirit of our Father, has alienated them from the society of good men and women, and has brought upon them the disregard and reproach of the children that have been born to them. And yet the devil will say to a man, "Oh, it is only a little thing." Doctrine and Covenants 89:8 continued. But is an herb for bruises and all sick cattle, to be used with judgment and skill. Tobacco, like alcohol, possesses medicinal properties for use on sick animals. When applied with skill, a tobacco poultice can be useful in healing cuts and bruises. Alcohol and tobacco have place when used as the Lord intended. President Brigham Young said, "You put cattle into a field where there is tobacco, and you will see that none of them will eat it unless they are sick. They will take it then, but at no other time. If a horse, ox, or sheep be in good, ordinary health, it will not touch it. And to say that it is necessary for man is absurd. Well, is it good for nothing? Was it created in vain? No. The word of wisdom tells us that tobacco is for sick cattle, and the dumb brute will demonstrate this if it is sick and can get at it. The tobacco plant and the lobelia plant are similar in taste and outward appearance, though not in their effects. But the former is for cattle, and the latter for man. The difference in their effects is chiefly that lobelia has no narcotic influence, while tobacco has. Doctrine and Covenants 89:9. And again, hot drinks are not for the body or belly. Elder John A. Witso said, when the Word of Wisdom was first promulgated in 1833, the question was at once asked, what is the meaning of hot drinks? Was it an injunction against consuming beverages so hot as to burn the tongue or mouth? That did not seem reasonable. The question concerning the meaning of hot drinks, as used in the Word of Wisdom, was at last brought to the prophet Joseph Smith. He defined hot drinks as tea and coffee, the two common household beverages of the day. Joel H. Johnson, with whose family the prophet was intimate, relates that on a Sabbath day in July 1833, following the giving of the Word of Wisdom, when both Joseph and Hiram Smith were in the stand, the prophet said to the saints, I understand that some of the people are excusing themselves in using tea and coffee because the Lord only said hot drinks in the revelation of the Word of Wisdom. Tea and coffee are what the Lord meant when he said hot drinks. Sometime later in 1842, Hiram Smith, the prophet's brother, in speaking upon the Word of Wisdom concerning the term hot drinks, said, there are many who wonder what this can mean, whether it refers to tea or coffee or not. I say it does refer to tea and coffee. Brigham Young, who, as the president of the Council of the 12, was very near to the prophet, always taught that hot drinks meant tea and coffee. As Elder Mary G. Romney stated, the use of a habit-forming drug of any kind violates the spirit of the Word of Wisdom and defiles both body and spirit. What about cola drinks, kava, some health or sports drinks, or other drinks containing stimulants? An official statement by the church's leaders reads, with reference to cola drinks, the church has never officially taken a position on this matter, but the leaders of the church have advised, and we do now specifically advise, against the use of any drink containing harmful, habit-forming drugs under circumstances that would result in acquiring the habit. Any beverage that contains ingredients harmful to the body should be avoided. The Doctrine and Covenants does not specifically mention heroin, cocaine, marijuana, ecstasy, other illegal drugs, or the abuse of prescription drugs. President Joseph Fielding Smith said, such revelation is unnecessary. The Word of Wisdom is a basic law. It points the way and gives us ample instruction in regard to both food and drink, good for the body and also detrimental. If we sincerely follow what is written, with the aid of the Spirit of the Lord, we need no further counsel. Thus, by keeping the commandments, we are promised inspiration and the guidance of the Spirit of the Lord, through which we will know what is good and what is bad for the body, without the Lord presenting us with a detailed list separating the good things from the bad, that we may be protected. We will learn by this faithful observance that the promises of the Lord are fulfilled.